Well, as Iran and Israel continue to exchange a volley of missiles, the question now arising is, how big will the conflict grow? According to an Axios report citing two officials, Israel has asked the Trump administration to join its war against Iran in order to decimate Tehran's nuclear program. The Trump administration has, however, distanced itself from Israel's operation. A direct attack on Iran, even if the U.S. involvement is limited to bombing a single site, would pull the U.S. directly into the war. As per the report, an idea raised by Israeli officials with the U.S. is to jointly take out Fordo, which is an Iranian nuclear facility carved deep underground in a mountain. Israel specifically lacks bunker buster bombs and large bomber aircraft needed to destroy Fordo enrichment site. Only U.S. has both the capacity and the capability located at a flying distance to Iran. Israel fears that if the Fordo nuclear site remained operational, even after the airstrikes, it would fail in its mission. Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Yechi Lether, has said that Israeli operation against Iran was supposed to be completed with the elimination of Fordo. So far, Israeli strikes have caused limited damage to the site. U.S. President Donald Trump has warned Iran that it would experience the full strength of the U.S. military if it attacks the United States. But he has also asserted that Washington had nothing to do with Israel's strikes on Tehran's nuclear and intelligence facilities. Meanwhile, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said that he is deploying fighter jets and other assets to West Asia amid an escalating conflict between Iran and Israel. Starmer said that UK was moving assets to the region, including jets, and that it is for contingency support. The UK leader said he had spoken with both Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. UK's move comes as Iran told the United States and UK that it could retaliate if the countries aid Israel in attacks amid fears that the West Asia will descend into a war. The state media had said that any country which participated in repelling Iranian attacks on Israel would be subject to Iranian forces targeting all regional bases of the complicit government. The Iranian threat also included France, which had asserted its stance, suggesting that Israel had the right to defend against the attacks. And of course, we've been telling you about how there's a change in tone from Iran after Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said that if Israel attacks stop, our response will also stop. To talk more on this and all that's happening, we're now being joined by Joachim Bitterlich, former German ambassador to NATO and former European diplomatic and security advisor to German Chancellor Helmut Kohl. Welcome to WION, Ambassador. First up, we are seeing a change in tone, a shift in tone from Tehran, where Araghchi has said that Tehran is open to a nuclear deal that would ensure it cannot acquire atomic weapons. Do you see this as a softening of the stance and perhaps a window towards negotiations to end the conflict?
I think you're right. Instead of, let's say, an escalation without a way out, it seems to be the potential way out. This means destroy certain capabilities of the Iranian side and then open direct negotiations or facilitate negotiations directly between the US and Iran, let's say, to prevent Iran, let's say, from building nuclear bombs. And the alarm signal had been, I think, the report of the International Atomic Energy Agency speaking about, let's say, Iran having enough material for about 15 nuclear bombs. And as the Israelis consider these bombs, this development, as a direct threat to the existence of Israel, it's not a defensive nuclear weapon, as, for example, India or as the Americans and the Russians in general, or the French. This is in the Israeli eyes, a direct threat to the existence of Israel. Therefore, the attack And therefore, the aim of negotiations, potential negotiations, to stop this nuclear program and to avoid Iran of developing any, let's say, nuclear weapon.
Right, Ambassador Bitterlich, Iran has said that Israel does not want to reach a nuclear deal with US, that Israel is obstructing any kind of nuclear talks between the United States of America and Iran. Do you think, and we do know that the preemptive strikes by Israel happened when the talks were going on between Iran and the United States of America. Do you think US has perhaps missed this chance of attaining a nuclear deal, or will US convince Israel to come on the negotiating table after the statement by Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, keeping in mind that the Israeli regime has clearly said that the ultimate aim to end the war is the elimination of the Fordo nuclear site?
Well, there is the real question at the end of the day. What was the Israeli evaluation in that very moment of negotiations between the US and Iran? And was it, let's say, the last possibility in the Israeli view to prevent really the development of bombs in Iran or not? What was the real last offer of the Iranians towards the US? Was it, let's say, to stand away from developing nuclear weapons with this existential threat to Israel? Or was it, let's say, something not sufficient in the eyes of the Israelis, and the Israelis felt comfortable in the light of a report of the International Atomic Agency of Vienna? And therefore, on the other hand, it's clear, it's difficult for the Israelis. They have not attacked till now the central point of this nuclear program, and it seems they have been abstaining from doing it. Some people say they have not the bunker blast bombs. They have some, yes, they have some. They have not all that, but they have some. But they have been abstaining from doing this very last step because of the risks of nuclear contamination. And this was the very last step the Israelis were considering. And I think perhaps the time is now ripe for more serious negotiation between the US and the Iranians. I hope so, at least.
Negotiations on the table, US has clearly said that it has no role in Israel's overnight attacks on Iran. But we heard yesterday the Israeli Prime Minister clearly saying that US was in the know of all that's happening. Do you think that the United States of America, if the negotiations fail, will perhaps be dragged into a war it does not want to be a part of?
The Americans try to avoid this at any price. And I think the Americans are not involved in the offensive attacks in Iran, but they are involved, what I call, in the defensive side in Israel. Satellites, and especially by satellites and by information. That's clear. But I don't think that the Americans would, let's say, like to go to a war with Iran. They would like to avoid this.
Right, Ambassador Bitterlich, thank you so much for joining us here on WION with your insights on this.